Welcome to Justified Riches podcast. Justified Riches is a financial literacy podcast dedicated to empowering individuals with the knowledge and tools to achieve financial independence and professional success. Each episode bridges the gap between ambition and achievement by bringing together a seasoned mentor and an eager mentee for transformative conversations.
Frederick Douglass once said, "It's easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men." And our mission here at Justified Riches is to create a stronger generation of youth through financial literacy.
I'm your host, Rich Tavarez, aka Positivity Pusher.
And I'm your other host, Justin, aka Stock Knock Life.
And together we hope that you enjoy the show, take notes, and sit down and relax.
Enjoy the episode.
Mitch, man, ready as soon as ready to go?
It is so great to be on the Justified Riches podcast. Thanks, guys, for having me. I'm so happy to be here. I started the show. I didn't even let you start. I just jumped right in. I'm taking over the show. This is awesome.
it.
The studio is amazing.
I love it.
It's so great to be here.
I love it.
Is this your first time in Nam Studios?
Yes, it is.
So we got here before Theo. Wow, Theo usually gets all the good people first.
No, I'm excited.
Yeah, this is exciting, bitch. No, I love that. So happy to have you. I would expect nothing less. So money has never been about numbers. My name is Rich Tavarez, aka Positivity Pusher. I'm here with our co-host.
And I'm Justin, aka Stock Knock Life.
Yes, and we have the extreme pleasure here. And normally I just kind of go off the cuff with intros, but like Mitch, man, he's just an established person. We have something really cool. So Mitch is not just a mentor of mine, a friend. You all know I love my quote, Marion Wright Edelman, you cannot be what you cannot see. And Mitch is one of those people, man. I see him just being Mitch, living his best life, going through things, dealing with life, being very open about life, and like giving all of us an opportunity to learn from it. So my intro for him, money has never been about numbers. It is also about behavior, confidence, fear, trust, and decisions people make when the future feels uncertain. Today's guest has spent decades helping people navigate those decisions. Mitch Goldberg, or Mitch, as we affectionately know him, AIF and AAMS, is president and CEO of ClientFirst Strategy, a financial planner, and the self-described chief listening officer of his firm. He is also the host of the Be the Boss of Your Money and a serious AI artificial intelligence enthusiast who is closely examining how technology may change financial education, investing, and the advisory profession. Today we're discussing what it really means to control your money. Our co-host, this is like Justin, this is like his favorite thing in the whole world, right?
Yes. So
how excited are we to have Mitch?
I'm like super excited. Like I've seen plenty of your clips on Instagram, and you talk about the stock market and things around financial planning and financial literacy. So I'm just very excited to big fan of Mitch.
Thanks. And,
Welcome, Mitch.
hey, listen, thank you so much for that ridiculously overly generous and kind intro, okay? It's just, Mitch, we've all had obstacles. We could get into that later. But with all of the financial content and all of the podcasts, the YouTubers, the articles, everything, have we gotten better with money? I'd say no. The other thing I'd say is how you describe money with, fear and greed and all these other things. Like, I've always thought of you as someone who's very spiritual, Rich, and someone who's also very, kind of like a psychologist. You know how to relate to people. So money is emotional. Money is about psychology, and you're right. It's not just the numbers.
At 110%. Thank you. And that's one of the things I feel like also too, you're able to talk about money, but you correlate life as well. Like you don't just separately talk about it. I enjoy also on your show, which I know Justin's watched. But this is Justin's show, man.
Let Justin talk, please.
Yes, please,
exactly.
please. We call that treatment that Rich gave you, we call that the red carpet treatment.
Yes.
He gave you the traditional red carpet treatment. So a little of my background, I work with high school students teaching financial literacy. And a lot of like the issues that I see with young kids, especially they're about 15, 16 years old, is the lack of knowledge they have around money But then we go on what Rich was talking about, the mental aspect of things. Like, to me, investing is more mental than it is actual a numbers type of thing. Can you just like talk to like, and we're kind of talking to like the youth. What do you think is some obstacles you think like youth have when it comes to investing?
My youngest son is 20. I remember when they were like 13, 14, 15 years old, they all thought they could just they all thought they could hodl their way into crypto and just suddenly like a new Ferrari or Porsche is going to show up in the driveway. You know,
Right.
it's like, that's
Crypto.
not the real deal. And I would always say about new investors is the worst thing that can happen to a new investor is that they make a lot of money right off the bat because now their confidence is skewed. They think it's easy. A lot of them started during the pandemic. And more to your point, Justin, it's not about how smart you are. It's about your disposition. It's about your ability to be patient. It's about your ability to say, do I want this now? Will it make me feel good? It's about being able to think of, if I have this new thing, how am I going to feel about it after about 2 weeks? Am I going to get sick of it?
Right.
And everything we're pushed for is new this, new that, more this, more that. We've just become accumulators of junk.
Right. So, like, if I was to have a young person, 18 years old, just graduate high school, start an investment account. I know back in the day they used to say your portfolio maybe should be 80-20, 90-10, maybe if you're starting off, 90 stocks, 10% bonds. I'm more to thinking of you're 18 years old, 100%, you just go 100% stocks.
I agree with that. I mean, you're 18 years old. You've got nothing but time ahead of you. You've got time to get through hiccups. You've got time to make mistakes. You know, it's not that time is your greatest asset. It's how you use your time is your greatest asset, right?
Right.
It's kind of like people say practice makes perfect. No, actually, perfect practice makes perfect. If you have bad practice, you're going to be bad in reality, right? In the game. So I would say to young people, start. And there are so many ways to start. There are so many ways to open up a brokerage account. There are so many ways to learn about the market. But even before I think people learn about the stock market, if you don't have your personal finance down, the stock market's just going to be something you kind of do, something you want comes up or need comes up, and everything you've done for the stock market goes away anyway because you have to take all the money out. So if you're going to tell somebody, to me, like if I'm thinking of young people and my son, and if I tell people just start investing now, it makes sense because you will never meet somebody who is 60 who says, I wish I started investing later in life. You're never going to meet that person, okay? What I would say for the young people is, understand your own psychology, understand your own need to spend, your own need to get new stuff, understand what's going to really bring you value. It's really hard to do, and I don't think a lot of adults do it well, let alone the kids. But I don't think the adults were taught that. A lot of us have adults who came here, a lot of us, I should say, have parents who came here as immigrants. And they had the sense to be careful. Maybe they didn't have the sense to know how to invest, but they had the sense to save and be careful and sacrifice because they know that food's important. They know that not everything is plentiful. It kind of gets lost as the generations become more Americanized, more assimilated. And then we have to teach people everything that they're being taught not to do through commercials and marketing, and it's endless.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. We were just talking about that dopamine hit. Right.
For the new things and knowing yourself and buyer's remorse. So.
Right. We was just talking about that. And there's so much influence. Like you said, you pick up your phone, you turn on the TV, everything's telling you to buy now. You need this.
They come up with problems you didn't even know you had.
And what's so interesting is that, right, they say if you look at the different generations, baby boomers, all these different things, like part of our patterns of behavior are based on that, right? Like if you meet someone who grew up in the recession, like they're like hardcore. And just touching to your point, I remember that I was a banker right during the Bear Stearns and the whole stock market crash. I was a business banker speaking to business owners. I'm calling out on them. At the same time, I had been pitched like a bunch of real estate investments, and allegedly I can get into a house that was like 600,000, that my income wasn't even correlation. Like this was all this that built up to it.
Remember
and
that?
then
Remember
to see that.
the ninja loans? No income, no job, no assets. Ninja.
Wow.
That's what it's spelled. Ninja.
It's Ninja. I didn't know that. Ninja. And what's so crazy is just tying into your point. It's almost like if this generation hasn't gone through something like that. Because when I saw that, that always had me save now. From then on, I was like, yo, I can't take on crazy monthly payments. Like, you know, as good as stuff is looking, there could always be a time where you got to save, right? That rainy day, that what you said, the immigrants were taught to save because they've seen those tough times and know that everything is cyclical.
You know, throwing away bread in some cultures is a sin. Because not a lot of us are food insecure. I'm not saying there's not food insecurity in our local market, but most people don't experience that. But enough people do. Life's lessons teach you. Hopefully, they don't teach you to be too soft, I guess. But I just don't. I'm not 100% convinced that we could. I believe we should have more personal finance in schools. I've spoken to politicians about this. You know, Steve Stern, my local politician where I live, about personal finance in the middle schools and the high schools. But still, a lot of things in life have to be learned through trial and error, because even though I can give everyone the benefit of my mistakes, and you can give everyone the benefit of your mistakes, we still have to learn the mistakes through trial and error. We just have to live through it and get burned a couple of times. So I think the education is consistent. We say lifelong learning. Aren't we all lifelong learners?
Right.
You know, so personal finance is not just something you learn once and forget about it. You know, how many subscriptions do people have? You know, we all have so many subscriptions. We all have the personal budget apps, right? And there's a ton of them now, budgeting apps. So I think it's just something that has to be drilled into people's heads at a young age, and it's got to keep going and going and going.
Yeah, and to your point, I think, like you said, it's a consistent learning thing, and things are consistently shifting, especially with these economic times. I mean, when I was younger, I was going to say younger, maybe even like 10 years ago, they used to say the 50-30-20 plan. So 50% you spend your money on your wants, 30% on needs, and 20% is for saving and investing. I think nowadays, like, the cost of living is so high. Like, is that achievable?
I don't think so. Not 50. Well, not that. No, I mean, listen, the price of the gas is going up. The price of the food's going up. And you know the funny thing about inflation? If inflation next month comes out at, let's say, 0, it's not going to be 0. Let's say it comes at 0. You know, officials are going to run out and say, inflation's 0. We've conquered inflation. But that doesn't tell you the trend of prices. It doesn't tell you that prices are up from a year ago, from 2, from 5, from 10 years ago.
Right.
So just because the acceleration stopped doesn't mean the prices go back to where they were in 2019 before the pandemic.
Right.
So the cost of living, it's known that the average consumer today is not making any more money based on inflation than they were 40, 50 years ago. But the people who have done very well are the people that own the assets. Stock market investors, homeowners have done very well. Now, there are times when the stock market is terrible. There are times when owning a home is not so great. But by and large, if you want to know who's making money today, it's not the person who is living strictly on their income. Because the money comes in and it goes.
Right.
It's investors who are really capitalizing this market. That's why we talk about a bifurcated economy. We have 2 economies now. We have one economy where asset holders are doing well and say, what are you talking about? Things are great. Look how much money I have. Right. Even when I spend money out of my portfolio, I still have more money.
Right.
It's endless amounts of money. That's one part of the population. The major part of the population is like, I'm working for my wages and everything else is going up around me, and my boss doesn't want to give me a raise because his expenses are going up, and he's got to make a nice living too. So there's just a lot of competition for a scarce amount of assets.
Right. And I think that's something important that needs to be preached even more. Like you said, like getting into these high schools, middle schools, and preach to the young ones, because like it's actually going to be harder for them than it was for us, just based on inflation, CPI, PPI. Like our wages will never catch up to some of this stuff, and like you said, importance of putting your money somewhere, like real estate. Not everybody's gonna get into real estate, but I feel like anybody can invest. Anybody could open up a brokerage, open up an account, and start buying stocks, index funds. You know,
There is an unlimited amount of tools to invest. You know, the great thing about being an investor today is you can invest in virtually anything. I mean, if you want to invest in gold, you can invest in gold. You want to invest in silver, you want to invest in, commercial real estate, you want to invest in just data center real estate, you want to invest in semiconductor stocks, you want to invest in Chinese stocks and Brazil stocks. You can literally invest in anything, anywhere, at any time. And I think that's probably the biggest change in the investment world in the last 50 years.
right? So even with like,
But more tools doesn't mean we're building better houses. Okay, my little analogy.
so even if we have a beginning investor, would you recommend, like, like some of my students, I taught them about index funds, like easiest way to get started, invest in a QQQ, SPY, VGT.
I think that's such a good way to go for a new investor. I think every investor, new or not, has to get a gauge for their interest in the process.
Right.
And I think when you can keep it simpler and learn the basics is better than giving them the more sophisticated tools of stocks and options and other things that they could do, and let them get lost in that because they're not learning the basics. And we all know if you don't learn the basics, you're hurting yourself down the road.
Right.
So I think you're absolutely right on. And it's really not a matter of if it's SPY or VIG or any of the other exchanges or the other index funds. By the way, you cannot directly invest in an index, but you can invest into a security that tracks or mimics an index. My little disclaimer I have to say when I talk about index funds. Sorry, very sorry, I have to do that.
Keeping us legit.
But maybe I get to use some of this material for my own, podcast because I'm really happy with the way this is going, and it's fun, and it's important. But the first step is the most important step because we don't know where we want to go. We don't know if we go left or right. Just take a step and keep figuring it out as you're walking. So I think an index fund is a great way to start because it's a first step.
Right.
And at least it gives you something to focus on and to do. You get that done and you learn.
So that's one of the things I get pushback with my students because all of them have an aunt or uncle or cousin, right, that's maybe done Forex or futures or bought an option for $100 and then went to $2,000. And all of them want to learn about, these different derivatives that they can.
Shortcuts and quick money.
Yeah,
And
man.
if you have the basics and you build the bigger portfolio, you could do that sort of thing as sort of like a satellite, like a core satellite portfolio. And you could take those little speculation shots, those little shot in the dark, the wing and a prayer things. You can do those on the side. But if that's all you're doing, you're always one bad trade away from blowing up everything. And then you go from age 17 to 30 really fast. And you're like, I have nothing to show for it, except I have bigger expenses, more responsibilities. And now it's even harder to play catch up. And I don't have time to learn this stuff anymore because I'm busier than I've ever been.
Right.
So that's why the basics are so important. And I think you're right. But if the psychology in the kid's head is that I want the quick money and this is all I'm interested in, okay, well, give it a shot. I guess better to do that than to do nothing. My industry, we like to tell people what to do. We like, This is how you do it. You can't do that. You could do this. I don't like that. I think I'm not here to tell people what they can and cannot do. I'm here to tell people. I'm here to guide people and saying, I think your best options for your particular goal are these options. Now, if you've had a bad experience with these options, I want to know because maybe you did it wrong in the past, or maybe there's something about your set of circumstances that I didn't hear. So let's talk about that. That's a much better way to collaborate, but you're talking about pushing kids to do it on their own. You got to start somewhere.
Right.
That's like such a good catch-all phrase that means nothing. You got to start somewhere. Okay, we have to do better than that. So let's talk about some practical things for the youngsters, okay? Maybe this could be a little bit older. We all talk about the 401k, right? Everyone has a 401k or some kind of retirement plan at work, and everybody says you should be in it. But what a lot of people don't realize is that from the ages of 18 to 30, that's a point in your life where most likely, I mean, we all have ups and downs, but most likely that's a period in your life when you're going to be the lowest paid, right? Because you're new, you're starting out.
Right.
That is the time to be in the Roth component of your retirement plan.
Correct.
Because the tax deduction that you would get from the traditional IRA or traditional 401k is so meaningless that it's probably not going to do much for you.
You're not really saving a lot with the 401k
Exactly.
at a young
But with
age.
the Roth, so you skip the tax deduction, which is so small anyway at that age,
Right.
that you get the money into the Roth component, and that becomes tax-free when you take the money out when you're older and grayer. Okay? That's one way. And then maybe when you turn 28, 30, 32, and you start making more money, and the tax deduction becomes more valuable, then you could flip from the Roth IRA to the traditional IRA, or the Roth 401k to the traditional 401k. That I think is such a valuable tool that people don't pay attention to. They just are told by their parents or their accountant, just go into the traditional 401k.
Yeah.
Right.
But what the accountant is doing is they're trying to minimize your taxes this year. As the financial advisor, they're trying to minimize your taxes that you pay this year. I'm trying to minimize your taxes in 30, 40, or 50 years.
Right.
That's a different. That's the long term thinking.
Because with the Roth, your money's growing tax free. So if you're not getting hit with a lot of taxes when you're younger, right? Because the income's not there, I might as well put that money in a Roth and let that money grow tax free.
Yeah, we all get the standard deduction now
Makes
anyway.
sense.
You know, we all get a nice standard deduction,
Yeah.
so that makes your taxable income even lower.
And then when you start making a lot of money, then maybe you're saying shift it to
Into
a
the traditional,
401k where you can save a little
when
bit
the
more.
deduction
on
is
the taxes.
actually worth more money to you. And then when you retire, you've got tax flexibility between the Roth IRA and the traditional IRA, and you could do something called filling up your tax bracket before you go to the next IRA or the next Roth, your distributions.
Right.
This is not terribly advanced, but I don't think the young people know about taxes. You know, I teach my kids, what taxes do I pay? What do my real estate taxes do? What do my sales taxes do? You know, to kids, tax is tax. It's some weird thing that they don't even pay attention to because, well, kids basically pay sales tax
Right.
because they're consumers. They buy stuff and they pay the tax. But when they get older, they don't realize all the different taxes they're going to get hit. Where's your income tax going? Your state income tax, your real estate tax. And I think that's a part of personal finance because your biggest expense in life is your taxes. Right? And if you try to live a life where you're paying no taxes, I've seen entrepreneurs do this.
Oh, yeah.
They become successful, they never pay taxes, and then they wonder why they're not getting any real money from Social Security. Well, Social Security actually turns out is a meaningful thing. I've got clients who are getting, you know, couples that are getting $6,000 to $8,000, $9,000 a month. That's a lot of money. That's meaningful
Yeah.
Yeah.
because they paid into it. So for people who think they're just never going to pay taxes, there's a penalty for that too.
Wow, we're getting hit with a lot of knowledge, man.
Dude, our audience is getting like a very high level education. Like Mitch may build the podcast.
No, that's why
this advice.
I love Mitch.
Thanks.
And like I said, I'm a big fan of his because the way you break things down on I seen your page on Instagram. The way you break things down, man, is just magnificent. And I don't think you get enough love that you should get, because this is, like I said, this is knowledge that a lot of people don't get, are not aware of.
Insta Mitch G on Instagram. Okay, follow me there.
Check him out.
Let's connect.
He's so proactive. Like normally we have to wait and ask the
double
audience.
tap and give me that heart. Come on.
Yeah. And I'm a kind of a big fan of actually the taxable brokerage also. A lot of people don't talk about the taxable brokerage just because just the flexibility and being able to I'm trying to remember what's this called.
Capital gains tax.
Where you could borrow against the shares that you have.
Margin.
The margin and the I think it's security back.
Securitized borrowing.
Yes.
Ooh.
So where you don't have to sell your shares, you could just borrow against it.
Well, let me ask you a question.
It's a
about
viral
leverage.
moment. Yes, talk about that. What the rich people do.
I hear stuff, and one of my dear friends was on your podcast because I watched the episode about how rich people never sell; they only borrow against their holdings. That is if your holdings are worth a massive amount of money. But if your net worth is like a couple $1 million or less, that's not really. I think it's a different game. If you're Elon Musk, borrow because you'll never get hurt. But I think it's different for us mere mortals. Okay.
Right.
Let me ask you a question. I think this tells it's leverage. When you borrow, they call it leverage, right? So it's a nice way to say borrowed money. It's we don't borrow, we leverage ourselves. Same thing.
True language, right?
We leverage it because it's fancy. Oh, you're so You're very sophisticated. Okay, so let's say this: if you have $100,000 portfolio,
right,
and it's $100,000. If you sell, it's worth you get $100,000 back. That means your equity is $100,000. Now you leverage it up. You go on margin or securitized borrowing. Same thing. Okay. It's essentially the same thing.
right.
Now you have $50,000 equity because you took $50,000 margin as a loan. So if you have $100,000, the brokerage firm will say, well, I'll give you $50,000 cash again to value it against your portfolio, but you're going to pay interest on it. 4, 5, 6, 7% interest on it. It's not. It's a loan. It's not free money. Okay. Now, if your portfolio, now let's say you take that $50,000 you borrowed, your margin debt, and you spent it, you invested it, you use it to buy a house. The money, the cash is gone.
It's gone.
Maybe you put it into another asset like a house. But if you put the money into a house, the money is gone.
It's not liquid.
You can't use it, right? It's no longer available to you. Now, let's say that $100,000 portfolio goes down to $50,000 because it's a really bad market. And we've seen the major averages drop 50% in the past,
Right.
okay? How much money do you have left?
Nothing.
Nothing. A lot of people say, well, I still have the 50,000. No, because that last 50,000 you have in the market, if the 100,000 goes down to 50, that first 100,000 to 50,
Yep.
that's your money. You lose it. The other 50,000 to $0, that's the house's money, the brokerage firm. They're not losing that.
Right.
Before you even get close to that, they're going to just start selling you out anyway because they're not going to take the risk that your stocks could go lower. If they go below the 50, you could get something called a margin call where you have to pony up more cash. And if you don't have the cash, within a day, they just start selling your securities out. You don't have a say in it. You've agreed to that in your margin clause. Ooh. So people don't realize that when you borrow money, the first money you lose is yours. And then once you run out of money, you're done. You have no more money. Well, what about the other 50,000? No, it's ours. We sold it and we took the money.
So so you're saying it's kind of a strategy you want to use if like your portfolio is maybe not 100, maybe like 300,000-400,000, and then you're not borrowing half of that. Maybe you're only borrowing 10%.
There would have to be a really good reason to go on margin. It's not something that I use. And I can tell you at this point in time, I don't have a single client. I have a pretty nice sized clientele. I've been doing this a long time. I don't have a single client who's borrowing against their portfolio. It's if you're in such a pinch where you need to borrow money to buy something else, and you're going to get liquid for that money in like 30 to 60 days, and the margin is there for a very short amount of time, and you're just paying a little bit of interest on it, and it's a tool at your disposal, yeah, I could see you using it. I could see it for the right circumstance for the person who understands margin. But by and large, no, I don't recommend it. And I certainly don't like to use it to buy more securities. So I'm kind of anti-margin.
Okay.
I'm anti that. Now, if you have, if you just took your company public and now, Justin's liquid, for $3 billion and you want to take out $500 million to go live your life and buy that mansion and take care of your family and give to charity, do all these things and pay some taxes, that's a different story. It ain't my story. And it's probably not the story of most of the people in our lives. Margin is often, it often hurts you. It hurts you more than it helps you.
I'm loving this conversation, man. Like
I
could talk to Mitch.
At,
I could talk to Mitch for hours. Like we didn't talk about AI. We didn't talk about Google earnings. The AI bubble.
I'd love to talk about AI.
I see Mitch as a regular guest
It's my favorite topic, and I'd love to talk about the Google earnings that came out last night. The sad thing is the earnings were darn good. They were phenomenal, but it's not like they're just paying their bills out of the revenue anymore. They're actually losing money. It's a funny thing. How could they be losing money, Mitch? You just said the earnings were really good, but their cash flow is negative.
Wow.
So they have to issue more debt. So when they issue more debt, they're actually using some of that debt to pay their bills. It's not coming in from the revenue anymore. They're not making enough from the revenue now. So that's the risk that they're taking. The good thing about a company like a Google, the hyperscalers, the Google, Meta, which is Facebook, and Tesla, SpaceX, the hyperscalers, the good thing about them, Amazon, Microsoft, they could stop the spending and go right back to cash flow positive because their main businesses are still doing so well. I think that's a knock, though, against the picks and shovels sellers.
Right.
They're selling the picks and shovels. You remember that's an expression from the gold rush. NVIDIA, Advanced Micro Devices, semiconductors. These are all the companies we've heard about. They're dependent on the spending of the hyperscalers. If the hyperscalers decide we have to stop the spending or spend less, I think the picks and shovels sellers could be in a lot of trouble. Maybe they'll be okay, but I'm talking the investors in these. All you need is a little bit of a slowdown, and you go right back to realizing that semiconductor stocks are actually cyclical. They go up and down with the booms and busts of demand. We've seen this happen before, and I know people love to say this time it's different. I think those are the most dangerous words on Wall Street. It's never different.
Yeah.
It's just the cycle goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah, I know we don't have a lot of time, but this has to turn.
Mitch is gonna be like a regular.
Yeah, like I said,
like once a month.
I would say
20 minutes. I'm here.
He should be here. Yeah.
We definitely have to turn this into a regular thing.
Please.
When
Even if
your
it's not
ratings
here-
get low, you just call up Mitch, and Mitch will be on. I'll be like the resident guest for like a week at a time. Like the garden. And
That's what I'm saying.
we could even change a whole segment, call it Market Talk or whatever we want.
And we have Zoom ability too. So
Yeah,
we'll
Zoom,
make
definitely.
Sure, for the next one.
let's talk money
for
and
the Zoom.
muscles.
Money
Talk
and
about
muscles.
working out. We'll talk about the market. How about that?
Money,
Was that
muscles,
cheesy?
mental health.
Was that like really cheesy that I just said that?
Yeah, money and muscles.
That
bro.
was so cheesy.
You're a branding guru.
We're having fun.
You're a branding
having fun.
genius. As we're wrapping up, where can people find you? And I don't know if you have like a certain amount of assets that you look to work with. I mean, I know you try to help everyone if that's relevant to share. But where can people find you and what should they know about you?
Okay. ClientFirstStrategy.com, our website. I'm active on LinkedIn, Mitchell Goldberg. I'm active on Instagram, YouTube, Client First Strategy TV, Facebook, Client First Strategy. Personally, Mitchell Goldberg on Facebook as well. Minimums. I'll tell you a little quick story because we're running out of time, but when I graduated college, the most you could put into an IRA was $2,000. And at that time, I never even heard of a 401k. I don't think they were even, maybe they just come out. And I had friends who I went to college with who wanted to invest, and they had $500 to invest into their IRA. And my branch manager said, forget them. Don't take that. They're too small. It's going to be a pain in the neck. I accepted those as clients. I accepted these friends as clients. Thank goodness, because first of all, you don't want to insult your friend. What a jerk, right? You don't want to be an idiot.
You don't have enough money.
And I have to tell you, though, some of these people have become extraordinarily successful, and I'm so grateful that they trusted me in the beginning of their journey, and we're on the journey together today. I don't like minimums. It's really about the relationship. Can we get along? You know, you don't have to take all of my advice. I don't get insulted if somebody doesn't take my advice, but at least let's have an honest talk about it. I'm here to be your guide, and that's how I roll.
Oh my goodness. As we're signing off, shout out to the LIE, Long Island Elite Networking Group. Shout out to ACLD. Mitch is going to be back. We're going to talk about so much more. I know we still are going to dive into AI. I still want to know for the next episode too, working with life and finance and how to deal with everything and not be reactive and keep the emotion out of finance, which I just, preluding to things that we're going to talk about. Anything on your end to sign off on?
I appreciate you coming to check us out, Mitch.
Thank you so much for having me. Beautiful studio.
Oh, thank you. We want to have you back. And before we sign off, we always do, this is part of our thing, man. We do a hug.
I get a present? Oh,
I'm not getting a present.
Wait. Just a handshake and a hug? That's it? Oh, man. All right. Fine. Bring it in.
Thank you, everybody. Signing off. Thank you, Jody.